Chapter 11. Not far from the Belgian border, on the morning of Thursday, September 12th, Constantine Vanderpoel could be observed wearing a charcoal silk kimono outside on the terrace overlooking the compound at the villa near Saas-van-Gent. His sidekick, Yappers, accompanied the Zeeland boss. From a distance, Constantine's chest hair, protruding from the gap in his robe, resembled that of a bird's nest. He was unmistakably Sicilian. Big bushy eyebrows, thick coffee bean hair, and a beard that reemerged within minutes after shaving. His almond-colored eyes sat upon a swollen paunch of a nose, a Dago's nose. His skin, olive in tone, stretched over a cube jawbone. On this cold morning, while any sane man would be having his coffee inside next to the wood-burning stove, the Zeeland boss found himself sitting outside with his pup, watching the pigs rustling in the pen. The wind was cold, yet it didn't bother him in the least to be out in the elements. The gram of Colombian he'd snorted a short while ago probably had something to do with it. The big dose, which would have staggered a gorilla, had begun its ascent into the serotonin pools of his brain. Now that Constantine's senses had been heightened, he moved back inside the mansion and sat quietly in the morning room reading The Stem, the most popular newspaper covering northern Brabant and South Holland. On the table in front of him sat a profusion of foodstuffs: mangoes, red grapes, white grapes, strawberries, melons, cherries, figs, breads, jellies, cheeses, and thin sliced meats, all of which Constantine picked at intermittently between paragraphs. Every now and then he tossed Yappers a sampling. Next to those items, on a silver platter, lay a small mound of cocaine and pre-rolled hash joints. In the background, throughout the complex, Enya's haunting voice echoed from several dozen speakers strategically placed to ensure quality sound, no matter where he might be on the property. The Sicilian spared no expense in transforming the piece of land into a palatial estate. In his latest duds, the servant had made a visit to Constantine's tailor. Mario entered the room. The Venezuelan's new whitetail suited him just fine. "Sir, I have an interesting piece of information for you." His butler's accent was peculiar sounding, displaying a Latino tonality. The Zeeland boss waved a hand. "Come, lad, take a break and have a coffee with me." "Thank you, sir." Mario retrieved the silver urn and poured 2 cups. He first handed one to Constantine and then said, "The news is quite disconcerting." The Sicilian took a small sip and momentarily ignored the comment. "Ah, yes," he said, "the best bean on the planet." Constantine always appreciated just how good the Sicilian coffee tasted. It put him into a different world, a sharp world. "As long as you don't tell me we've lost another man." "No, sir," Mario replied. Constantine lifted his brows. "Well, let's have it then." Mario held the saucer in his lap like a pet lizard. "Well, sir, we have reliable information that Rucker Van S was seen leaving Sophie Dubois' flat recently." Constantine stopped in mid-sip and set his cup back down. With a look of shock and opportunity, the Sicilian said, "You don't say." "The information is reliable, sir." "Does anyone else know about this?" "Just Stouter and his boy," said the immigrant. "Make sure no one else finds out," the Zeeland boss instructed. "Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." Gretchen, the German servant, entered and announced that Yari Fisser had arrived. The unruly gangster came into the room looking like an indigent who'd found a stash of crack. His hair was humidified. "We go in the fucking city all night, boss," Fizzer said, sweeping the loose, mottled strands of hair away from his face. Mario poured Yori a cup of coffee. Fizzer retrieved the cup and saucer from the immigrant. Immediately, his shaky, tired hands caused the china to clink. "Nobody knows a fucking thing." "Leave us now, Mario," Constantine told the servant. After Mario left the two men alone, Fizzer turned back to Constantine. "Nobody's seen Hunt, and trust me, I put plenty of heat out." "Yori, you remember yesterday when I informed the crew that the expediter had been murdered?" "Of course." "What I didn't explain is that he was carrying a large stash of the Nepalese." Fizzer's eyes lit up. "For fuck's sake, how much?" 100 kilos, that's how much, and it's gone. Ivar Van Lowy had informed me that he had a buyer for the lot we got off the Turks. I told him I needed to move the shit quick, and he seemed to have a plan. Fisher knew they were on to something. "Let me guess. Ivar and the buyer were killed in the midst of the deal." The switch to the light bulb had been pulled. "So that means whoever killed Ivar has the stash and the gash." "Precisely," the Zaylan boss concluded. "Who would have the balls to pull something like that?" "I may have a lead," Constantine said to his successor. "I was in the shop yesterday, checking on Rucker and Arno had picked up a large quantity of hashish from a street dealer. Luckily, before I left, Arno gave me some to sample. Yari, this was no ordinary hashish. It was the Nepalese." Like a blushing assassin, Fizzer said. "No shit. Who was it?" "Pym." Constantine searched his memory for the last name, but was interrupted by Yari. "Bim Buttman?" "That's him," the Sicilian said. "Do you know him?" "Fuck yeah, I know the cocksucker." "Find him." "And we find the loot," interpreted Fisher. "Do it now, Yori." Constantine was thrilled. He'd save the story about Sophie and Rucker for later. Josie Dempsey loved to sit around in the afternoons and watch soap operas. Monday through Friday, she'd bind herself to the television, following the woes, challenges, and deceits of characters like Asa and Bo and Monica and Leslie. Her two favorites, One Life to Live and General Hospital, aired at 1 and 2 respectively. "The shows just aren't the same anymore," she mused. "At least Luke and Laura are back." The phone rang, startling her, and for a very good reason, she would learn minutes later. Josie Dempsey picked up the phone and said hello. "Yes," a woman's voice said, prolonging the S. "May I speak to Josie Dempsey?" Josie noticed that the woman spoke with a harsh accent, said her name with a Y instead of a J. "This is Josie," she said. "Who's this?" "My name is Hannah van der Berg. Perhaps you do not remember me." Josie searched her memory bank but came up empty. "Sorry, honey, it doesn't ring a bell." Maybe she's got the wrong number. "No, wait," Josie told herself. "That voice sounds familiar." And then she remembered. "Oh my God, you were, Jimmy's girlfriend, the Dutch girl he met before he died. I'm so sorry, it's been a long time. I didn't recognize your voice." "It's okay, I understand. I have considered not to ring to you. It is not my intention to cause you pain." She had been practicing the line for hours, trying to figure out the right thing to say in English. Mystified at the Dutch girl's point, Josie said, "It was a long time ago, sweetie pie." "I know this, yes," Hannah said, "but I have to tell you may be a shock to you." Josie became a little nervous at this statement. She felt her chest tighten. Go ahead, I'm listening. I have only one way to tell you, Hannah said. Jimmy is alive. After she said the words, Hannah heard nothing but silence on the other end of the line. She imagined Jimmy's mother's heart being pierced by 100 arrows. Coming through the receiver, she heard deep, puffing breaths and words like, oh Lord, and this can't be, and how's this possible? And then a lighter flicking furiously, followed by the deep exhale of smoke. Yossi, are you with me? Hannah had been almost scared to say anything. So, came the American woman's reply, what's Jimmy gotten himself into now? Hannah told her everything, how she and Jimmy had faked his death, how they'd started over, how they'd not wanted anyone to get hurt, how Jimmy had gotten involved with the wrong people, how they'd broken up, all of it. These are very dangerous men, Hannah told her. What can I do to help? You must tell me if Jimmy contacts you. Hannah gave Yossi the number where she could be reached. You can ring to me anytime, she said to the American woman. Same goes for you, okay? I want to know if my son's okay. Trust me, you will hear from me again soon. I'm going to be worried sick, Josie Dempsey reported. For the information, you should know Jimmy has spoken much about you and William. He has missed you very much. Josie broke down in tears, saying, you just make sure she called me back in a few days. You hear? Yes, I will, Yossi. I will. In Gulfport, on the sweltering docks, William and Danny were in the middle of a banana transfer. I can't believe he ain't called back yet, Danny. I don't know how much longer I can keep this from Mama. Danny spat a mouthful of tobacco juice onto the grated floor of the container. Something must have gone wrong is all I can think of. Anxiously, William said, well, if he doesn't call in a few days, I'm telling her. Danny heaved the box. All right, but don't get your panties in a wad just yet. On the other side of the Atlantic, against Constantine's warning, Rutger Finesse found himself sitting stone-faced on the nasty toilet in his favorite hard dope strut on Tollenstraat. He hated that his bowels always seemed to pick this place as his dumping ground. Perhaps it was because he mixed the coke with the heroin. He didn't know. What the platinum gangster did know was that the missing latch prevented the door to the bathroom from closing, leaving it slightly ajar. Outside, he could see other junkies yielding expressions ranging from forlornness to pure delight. The junk house held the alloy of cheap cologne and rancid body fluids. A light R&B song filtered through the room. Rutger looked at his left arm, wrapped with a thick rubber band. An unattended hypodermic needle dangled precariously from a vein in the crook of his elbow. His right hand held a pipe. Rutger looked down at the brown liquid inside the vial, awaiting him, talking to him, beckoning, calling his name. Do it, Rutger. What the fuck are you waiting for? Like a mother dressing a toddler, the junkie woman, sitting on her knees on the floor in front of the toilet, said to him, just relax, and I'll do it for you. She delicately extended his arm and massaged his bicep. There now. She smacked his skin hard with the palm of her hand. Rutger watched as she pushed in the plunger and the heroin disappeared into his arm. The junkie woman released the polyurethane filament from around his arm. Rutger watched it fall to the floor. The drug hit him quick. The pain disappeared, at least for the moment. and then the feeling of rapture descended upon him. Red and purple and silver and mirrors and glitter and sparkles. Every fiber, every muscle. Fucking junkies. Look at them, and you're no better. Go with Hunt when he calls. Get the fuck out of here. Start over. He wondered how his life had become so utterly fucked up. He thought about his mother and his father, how he'd followed in their paths, step for step. He contemplated offing himself right then and there. A second is all it'll take.